Good morning, happy Tuesday. It's Tony Kurre here on Tony Kurre Radio on TKR. Chime in this morning, let me know what your thoughts are. I got a couple things I want to get into today, and of course, it's the day after Halloween. I sat on my front porch, by the way, last night for 2 hours. I was watching my Bengals get their ass handed to them by the Cleveland Browns. I hate the Cleveland Browns. They have beat my Bengals 8 of the last 9 games. Joe Burrow, horrible last night. Anyway, so I'm going back and forth between the TV and the front porch. I get this big bowl of candy. And I got suckered into buying one of those $35 bags of candy, and I've got the entire thing left. I didn't have one kid. I didn't have one stinking kid come to my house. I'm sitting on the front porch. I got the strobe light. I'm dressed up. What the hell? Anyway, it's time to put Halloween 2022 behind us. The one thing that I took away from this particular Halloween, Sam Russian, good morning to you, was just the chaos and all the crazy outfits people were wearing. Of course, you had Machine Gun Kelly administering communion to Megan Fox. She was on her knees, had some tea-bag thing on. People are like, oh, it's sacrilege, it's so disrespectful. Tony, you're a Catholic, what do you think? I'll talk about that. Billie Eilish and her boyfriend dressed up as an old man, a baby. I don't even know what that is. Heidi Klum coming out of some giant flipping worm into some see-through thing. Heidi Klum, man, goes all out on Halloween. She's crazy. And, of course, also The View being blasted for having a child dressed up as the Oscar slap. Here's the deal, and I'll use Dr. Josh Claypo, my radio partner, he's a psychologist. Read your room. I just mentioned a couple days ago, I've done a million Halloween costume contests. I mean, I've done like probably 3 or 4 every year for like the last 35 or 40 years. Just recently stopped doing those. And you read your room. When you go in and people are getting a chance to win some big time cash or they want to make a major splash, then they're going to dress up as crazy. The Jeffrey Dahmer thing was huge this year based on the documentary that came out. And so read your room. I mean, if you're out at an adult nightclub and it's a 21 and up and you're wearing something that's like, oh my gosh, then people expect that it's fine. If you're going to your kid's 4th grade class dressed up as Jeffrey Dahmer, probably not a good idea. But read your room. And again, the Machine Gun Kelly thing was like, oh my gosh, but did it ruin my day? No. Do I consider it sacrilege? No. Is it disrespectful to some? Sure. But does it bother me? I really don't care. I was dressed up as a priest when I was 18 years old, and some people gave me a hard time. I was dressed up as Father Mulcahy from MASH for Halloween my senior year in high school. And I actually went to Father Sayre, who's still my priest at St. John's up in Westchester, Ohio, where my dad went to church every day. And I asked him if I could borrow his collar so I could dress up as Father Mulcahy for Halloween. And some people were like, that's sacrilege. No, it's not. And he's like, sure. I mean, he looked at it like if we could get some more holy in our schools or wherever you're going to be wearing this costume, that's even a better thing. Even though I'm not a priest, it's okay to wear a priest collar. It's not sacrilege. It was not disrespectful. I was dressed up as Father Mulcahy. So anyway, so read your room, no big deal. Something else I thought was really interesting. This is something that a lot of men, there's a syndrome called walk-away wife. And that is when a wife, after a certain period of time, usually somewhere between 16 and 19, 16 and 20 years, they just walk away from a marriage, which a lot of people would say that Gisele Bündchen's doing to Tom Brady right now. Now, they're married 13 years, got kids, the whole 9 yards. Well, Tom has got this podcast he does with Jim Gray called Let's Go. And it's all out there. And I mentioned a couple of days ago, Tom, probably a good idea to take a break from the podcast because you're sharing a lot of information. The divorce is already final. That's the fastest divorce I've ever seen in the history of the world. They were divorced. I realized they got the money issues and they're building a $50 million home in Miami. I realized that was the fastest divorce I've ever seen. Like in 3 days. Like they fought on a Monday and they got it on Wednesday. How do you get that done? But Tom is coming out on his podcast yesterday and he's like, listen, I was trying to save the marriage. I wanted to do everything I could to save the marriage. And so a lot of people are now kind of jumping on Gisele Bündchen going, why aren't you working with Tom to make this happen? Well, what we're finding out, and this happens to guys all the time, and we're kind of stupid this way. Guys are kind of like a box of rocks once in a while, is we want to save it when we know we're about ready to lose it. We don't want to save it when it's going through turmoil, or we don't want to communicate, or we're just like, this is what I do, this is what you do, you have your role, I have my role, and we're just, and the guys aren't seeing the red flags, right? Obviously there were red flags along Tom and Gisele's wedding and marriage and everything else over the last 13 years, and as he continued to go through, well, this is what I do, I play football, I see the kids during the off season, I do this, and you do your thing, and everything's fine. Well, it's not fine. And so basically what he said was when he sat down with her and said, listen, I want to try to make this work, it was a little too late. And a lot of guys, this happens to a lot of guys. I speak from experience. Sometimes you're in a relationship, you have children, you have your jobs, you have everything going on, and you're just going, you realize it's going to be like this, it's going to be up and down, there's going to be tough times, there's going to be good times, and we just assume that it's always going to be okay, and at the end of the night, we're going to be good together, and it's just not true. And so us guys aren't really good at seeing those red flags. We don't always see those. Richard Evans, good morning to you. We don't always see those red flags, like when the wife gets upset about something that we think is no big deal. We're like, she should get over it. She'll be fine. No. Those are the things you need to communicate about. I'm not saying it's all guys' faults. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying Giselle doesn't have a play in this. But what I'm saying is Tom has come out and saying, listen, I did everything I could to save the marriage, and obviously he waited too long. If he had started this maybe a year ago, and I get this feeling, and this is where the retirement comes to play, I think that's finally what she wanted him to do. I think that's something he said he wanted to do, and then he backed off that, and that was like the straw that broke the camel. It wasn't the reason their marriage ended. It was the straw that broke that camel's back on their marriage. And I think she finally said, I've had enough. And then much like, remember the movie The Breakup with Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston? I love that movie. I hated the ending of it, though, because at the end of the movie, Vince Vaughn is in this relationship. I kind of sided with her in the entire movie, and they were both at guilt and through the entire process during the breakup. But that you wanted them to figure it out, right? You wanted them to figure it out. You wanted them to stay together. In the movie, I wanted to see them reconcile. And so at the end of the movie, he sits there and he's heartfelt, he's crying, he's holding her, and he's like, I'm so sorry, and I realized what a putz I was, and I realized how difficult I was to live with. I need to do more in this relationship. I need to communicate better with you. And so now I am ready. It was too late. She's like, and I was in that scene, if you've seen the movie, in that scene, she's looking at him, you're like, good, he's going to save the, because they were great together in that movie. Even from the beginning, when they're at the Cubs game. And it was just a great beginning. And she's like, I can't do it. I've had enough. And by the time the guy, and again, I'm not just blaming guys in this, but by the time the guy realizes what he's done or what he could do better to help the relationship or the marriage in this particular case, it's too late. And it just bummed me out. And then the end of the movie, they're meeting each other on a street corner or something like that, trying to make us think that maybe they're going to reconcile. Ain't never going to happen. Finally, happy birthday to Brian Harsin today. What a wild week it's been for Brian. Of course, he got fired yesterday by the Auburn Tigers. A lot of people thought it was a long time coming. People were wondering why it took so long. I will tell you why. First of all, he was going to get fired 3 or 4 weeks ago after the Missouri game. And a lot of people knew he was pretty much a lame duck. But timing's got to be just right. You have the recruiting process coming up, a period coming up in December, which allows them some time to save that recruiting class in December. So it had to happen now. It wasn't going to happen at the end of the year. And the second reason is obviously John Cohen, who, of course, came from Mississippi State, is now going to be the athletic director at Auburn. You needed to have an AD come in there to make that hire because Brian Harsin's guy who hired Brian Harsin is no longer at Auburn, which is always an issue. And so you had to wait to get yourself an AD first. Then you could go ahead and fire your coach, and now you can make your next hire for your coach at Auburn. I've got a lot of friends of mine that know how just dysfunctional right now the entire Auburn situation is, but the pieces are coming in place. You got an AD, now you can make your hire for your coach. Now my question to Auburn fans and the Auburn family is what kind of coach do you want to get? Auburn has been under this perception or misperception that they can go out and get any coach they want, and that's just not true. Lane Kiffin is one of those examples. I don't think Lane Kiffin's going to leave Ole Miss to go to Auburn. It doesn't make sense to me. Would it be a great hire? Would it be a great splash hire? Yeah, Ole Miss is playing some great ball this year. They look fantastic. I think Lane has turned the corner there. And the whole idea that Lane Kiffin would take the Auburn job so he could beat his old boss every year is ridiculous to me. So I don't think Lane Kiffin's going to be coming. Jeff Grimes, I think, is the hire that a lot of people think is perhaps going to happen. Of course, he worked under Gene Chizik. I know he's beloved there at Auburn. Is he the splash you're looking for? if Auburn comes out today and says Jeff Grimes is our new head coach, does that make you happy? Doesn't matter whether it makes you happy or not. If in fact the guy can coach and wins football games, that's the most important thing. But are you willing to give him the time to figure things out so he can build you a championship team? Jeff Grimes. Another guy, Mike Leach, who I just texted a few minutes ago. I'm going to talk to him later on this afternoon. We're going to interview Mike Leach. I'm going to be doing some stuff on the Jay Barker Radio Network. Just because John Cohen came from Mississippi State and hired Mike Leach at Mississippi State, would he want to grab Mike Leach and bring him with him? I don't see it happening. I think Mike Leach is comfortable in the Mississippi State situation. He's having some comfort there, and I don't know if he wants to deal what he's going to have to deal with at Auburn. Listen, this was not a good look for the Auburn Tigers, and you know this. When you hire a coach, inside the first year, you're investigating him for some things off the football field, inside the football facilities, whatever it is, they find nothing. It's just not a good look. And if you're a coach and you're wanting to get into a situation where you have total autonomy of the program and you can go kick some serious butt, the Auburn situation doesn't seem like the perfect situation for that. I'm not saying it can't be. I'm just saying right now it doesn't look like. I don't know why Mike Leach would want to deal with that. Deion Sanders is not going to be at Jackson State for the rest of his life. He's already said that. He's going to start opening some other doors. I don't know if Auburn will be that fit. Hugh Freeze has a little bit of a Bruce Pearl feel to me, of course, because Hugh's got a little baggage, but he's winning at Liberty. He's doing a great job. And the other guy I think would be a pretty decent hire is Kevin Steele, a guy a lot of people thought was going to get the job in 2020, and obviously he didn't get that job. And a lot of people thought, well, why not just move him into that role? But again, if you're one of those football fans, and I know how Auburn fans are because they want to compete and they want to make that splash, a lot of fans think they go out and just get whoever they want, and it's not that easy. So are you willing to bring in a guy that's not particularly a great splash hire? It's not a Hugh Freeze, a Mike Leach, or a Deion Sanders, but it is a Grimes or it is a Steele kind of hire, maybe even Matt Campbell, Matt Rule maybe. But bringing a guy in that's not really a big splash, but give him some time and he can win some football games for you, or are you just dead set on going out there and trying to make this, whoa, did you see who Auburn hired? Because that doesn't always work either. Ask A&M. But happy birthday to Brian Harsin. Listen, you're getting $15 million on top of the $21 million they had to pay Gus Malzahn. You're in about $36 million over the last 3 years. Think about what you could do with $36 million when it comes to hiring a head coach in the SEC. I'm just saying. Do your homework. You got a little time, and make sure you get the right hire, and I wish the best to the Auburn Tigers. Big weekend of college football, of course, LSU, Alabama. Alabama favored by about 14 in that game. I think that game decides the West. Whoever wins that ball game, I think, wins the West and represents the West in the SEC championship game, just my opinion. And then, of course, you got the Tennessee-Georgia game. Georgia favored by 8 in that game. Tennessee still not getting any rep, man. They're not getting any respect at all. That's going to be a hell of a game. Georgia-Tennessee this weekend. Cannot wait for that. It's only a Tuesday, though. We got the entire week. I want to thank all of my great sponsors this morning. Al Cooper is checking in this morning. Al, good morning to you, man. CoosaValleyAutoSales.com. CoosaValleyAutoSales.com. They do wonderful work. As a matter of fact, I've been in touch with Al over the last couple days. I've been talking a lot about them because I've never had a car dealer on my radio station because I didn't feel comfortable having a car dealer on my radio station. And after I met with Al, find out that they do this wonderful customer co-op. They do things the right way. Right now, the used car business is the business for car salesmen. They're making more money on used cars than they're making on new cars. So you want to make sure you get a reputable guy, a guy that knows what he's doing, a guy that's been doing it for a long period of time. And that's Al Cooper at Coosa Valley Auto Sale, Brad Porch. All those guys up there do fantastic work. They're in Sylacauga, just 30 minutes right down 280. Go check them out, CoosaValleyAutoSale.com, CoosaValleyAutoSale.com. Check them out, along with State Farm, with Chris Doris' State Farm team, Budweiser, Southern Precision Staffing, bringing us Live Wire Wednesday going on tomorrow night. It's our most listened to show, not only here in the Birmingham area, but all over the world. It's our show dedicated to AC/DC. We'll do that show tomorrow night at Wednesday night. We have Driscoll Gray. We have the Jimmy Hale Mission. We have Montgomery Food Bank. I could go on and on and on. All of our great sponsors. We thank them so much for being part of TKR. Download that Tony Kurre Radio app, TKR, or listen to our podcast. Just search Tony Kurre Radio, that's Kurre with a K, K-U-R-R-E, or TKR Podcast, and listen to all of our shows. We have over 750 podcasts up for grabs right now. So listen to them all, and I think you'll enjoy it. Have yourself a great day. Get after it, and love you. And we'll check in tomorrow morning and again on the TKR app 24 hours a day.